like to sew or quilt, let's just be real. You may have a fabric situation that looks somewhat like this. Because not only do we like to sew with fabrics, there's another hobby that most of us have. It's called collecting. And we like to collect the pretty fabrics because sometimes we walk into a quilt store and that new bolt of fabric is just screaming your name. You don't know what you'll use it for, but it's too pretty to leave behind. And so you buy it. And then you end up over time with a situation like that. But you know what? I have all this fabric to choose from and I love it. But the thing is, I wasn't always this organized with my fabric. I had shelves and boxes, and before I knew it, I was buying the same fabrics multiple times because I forgot I had it because I couldn't see it. And so I developed this system, oh my gosh, so many years ago now. I mean, this was back in the old house when I first started creating. I started wrapping my fabric around foam board. And foam board is what I choose to use. Many people like comic book boards. I think they're flimsy. I don't like them personally, but if you do, that's fine. You do what works for you in your craft room, in your space. Now, foam board is just what I started using because it's sturdy. You can cut down a piece that is 20 by 30 into 7.5 by 10 inch pieces, and you can get 8 pieces out of each section of foam board. I buy a foam board at the dollar store, Hobby Lobby, wherever I can get it on sale, right? Now, it's so great because it's like I've got all these mini bolts of fabric wrapped around the foam board. All my foam board is cut to the same size. I kind of have a whole system on how I fold my fabric and put it on the board, which I'm going to show you. But then I like that I can put a little pin in here to secure it so it's not falling off the board. So it stays wrapped around the board so it constantly looks neat on the shelf or, you know, wherever you are keeping your fabric. So I decided I needed a better way to store all of these pre-cuts, whether it's a layer cake, a charm pack, a jelly roll, a mini charm pack, yardage of fabric. What I put on my mini bolts behind me here, that's yardage. Now, I will put anywhere from a half a yard to 2 to 3 yards of fabric on a mini bolt at once. You can do more if you want to. You can cut the boards any size that you want to. That's the other thing. Do what works best for you. This is what's working best for me in my space that I currently have. And if you have smaller pieces of fabric like scraps, we're going to talk about that too, because that is a question I get all the time. We're going to talk about all kinds of different fabric storage to help you utilize your space, help you store your fabric neatly so that it doesn't become a wrinkled mess when you go to use it. So we talked about fabric yardage and how we store it like it is on the wall back there. But now let's talk about fabric pre-cuts. Now, if you're new to the quilting world, you might be looking at me going, what the heck is a pre-cut? I don't understand that language. And I didn't before either. And the funny thing is when I was sewing and making things, I was buying pre-cuts all the time, but I didn't know what it was. I was just like, oh, it's a layer cake. Okay. It's a fabric collection. Okay. So every designer, they have their collection of fabric where all the pieces in the collection match, coordinate, and it goes together. So you know, if you buy this jelly roll, you can take all these pieces, put them together in any way you want, and it's all going to match and coordinate and look beautiful together, right? The problem is, what do you do with this after you open it up, right? It looks so cute and pretty. You can put it on your shelf like this. You can stack them all up. But what happens when you untie this ribbon and you start actually using the fabric you bought? Because that's why we buy the fabric, to use it sometimes, right? So now I'm going to show you the ways that I like to store my pre-cuts once I've taken them out of their pretty packaging. Because we've got a jelly roll. Now, jelly rolls are 2.5 inches wide by the width of the fabric, which is generally anywhere between 40 and 44 inches long, 42, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on the line of fabric. So all of these strips in here, and there's usually between 40 and 44 strips in a jelly roll, depending on the brand. You might have to look at the label to be sure as to how much is included in there. But anyway, so I've got all of these strips that are only 2.5 inches wide. It's a mess once I unpack this. But then we also have charm packs. Now a charm pack it's all the same idea. All of these are collections of fabric where every piece within the bundle all matches and coordinates with each other, right? And this is a charm pack. It's 5 by 5. Mini charm packs, so cute, 2.5 by 2.5. And then you have a layer cake, which is 10 by 10. And again, everything in here matches, coordinates beautifully with the entire pack. And what I like to do when I buy fabric, even if I don't know what the project might be, and that's often how I buy fabric, I buy it because I like it, not because I have a project in mind. But what I'll do is I really love this layer cake. It's beautiful. And then I'll go through and I'll look at all the yardage and I'll look at all the pieces. And this goes for when I'm ordering online, not just when I'm in stores, is I go through and I look and I decide, okay, I really love these 4 pieces the most, because I'm going to be honest, I don't always love every piece of fabric that is included in the layer cake. There might be some where I'm like, I would never use this, and I set it aside. But sometimes, depending on how you cut it up and use it, they ended up looking really cute, even the ones you think you wouldn't normally buy. So don't just toss them aside. You might surprise yourself. But anyway, I do find the ones that I gravitate towards that I absolutely love, and I'll buy 1 to 2 yards of those. That way I have all of the pieces of the collection, plus I have some yardage, so that way when I do finally go to sit down to make something, because I bought this a year ago and I still haven't opened it, I at least have the yardage that was available that matches, so I don't have to hunt and peck and search and try to find something that looks great with this layer cake. And there are tons of different ways that you can use pre-cuts. I mean, people make entire quilts out of these little skinny strips of fabric, and they're amazing. So that's a whole nother series on what you can make with pre-cuts, but I just love them because everything matches and coordinates and you don't even have to think about your fabric. Now I'm going to talk about how I store those things. So let me take you through my room and show you how I store these once I take this ribbon off and it is no longer all pretty and beautiful and swirly like it's looking right now. So I've talked about this before. This rack right here is meant to hold shoes. When I saw it and I looked at the dimensions, I thought, oh my gosh, I knew I had these clear bins. They will fit my clear bins perfectly. The height is so much better. It's gonna work great for all of my pre-cut fabrics. So in here, I've organized my fat quarter bundles. These are all of my fat quarters. And then I've got some smaller containers that stack. Again, stackable is very important. Charm packs. They're 5 by 5 squares. This is what they look like, okay? 5 by 5, all the pieces in here though match and coordinate with each other. They look great when they're still wrapped and you buy them in the store, but then you take that wrapping off and you start using it, but you didn't use all of it. So you want to keep the pieces together so you have them all when you want to use them. You know what I mean? So what do you do with the open ones? Well, I organize them like this. So I can fit 2 charm packs in these little trays. I believe I got these at Home Goods. And I know Home Goods is tough because I can't link to anything. Their inventory is constantly changing. So that's why I say when you're out and about and you're shopping, check these places for things that might work for what you're looking to build and create. It took me a while to find all of this storage. I didn't go get it all in one day. It took me some time of really knowing what I was looking to store. So when I found these short little skinny containers, I knew they were perfect for my open charm packs. So now I can stack several collections together, but at least I know if I want to use this Valentine's section, it ends right here. And this is all that I have left. But these pieces all coordinate and match with each other. And so then I can stack them neatly, just like this, and slide them into my shelf. Let's talk about jelly rolls and layer cakes. Jelly rolls. Now, the jelly rolls are so cute when you buy them, and they look great, and they're wrapped, and they're bundled, and they're perfect. And then you open them up, and you have this huge, huge mess. Now, this storage method is a little tedious, but let me tell you, once it was done, I was like, oh, I love it so much. Because what I did is I found these, also Home Goods. You can find things like this on Amazon. These happen to have covers, which I love because, again, they are stackable. Look at my pretty jelly roll. Look at that. You know what I did? I went back to the foam board idea, and I cut down my pieces of foam board 2.5 inches wide to fit the width of each jelly roll strip and 3 inches tall so that they would fit perfectly in the container that I had. Maybe you have a container that's 4 inches tall. You can cut them to be whatever size you need them to be, but I knew they only needed to be 2.5 inches wide. They could have been a little wider so that the edges looked a little bit neater, but this is what worked. So I cut down a bunch of foam boards, put them on here just like my little mini bolts. These are really, really mini bolts. Used a little pin to secure. So again, it's not falling off. It's not coming unraveled. And this is how I now store all of my jelly rolls once I open them. And I've got them all organized here on my shelf so I can easily see what fabrics are in each one. I can pull them out. I can see what colors I have available. And they're all nice and neat. So that is my favorite way to store open jelly rolls. I have found a couple of different ways to store layer cakes once you've opened them up. And I've got 2 different ways. I like one better than the other. The first one that I like the least are these trays, again, from Target. They're by Bright Room. A lot of their storage is by that brand, Bright Room. 12 by 12 trays. You want them to be a little bit bigger than the size you need, especially when you're dealing with things that you're opening, because you're not going to put it all back in there completely perfect, right? And these work great. They're stackable, and so they work. You can stack them all on top, one on top of the other here. I've got 4 of them. But then I found these also at Target. And these are a clear bin here. And this is one section. You can see this is one piece. These are all drawers. So they slide out. You don't have to, like when you want the bottom one, you don't have to remove the whole stack. You can just slide out whichever one you're looking for. And I've got all of my pre-cuts organized in here by the collection that they are. And so I've got a bunch. They stack, again, right on top of each other. So you can just stack them wherever you have the space. Let's talk about fabric scraps. Now, you may want to organize your fabric scraps or your cut up pieces by project. You might have various projects that you're working on and you need some different places to put all of your things. So again, these stackable clear bins work so well, because all of these fabrics that I have in here, I pulled for a specific project. They match, they coordinate, they all go together. They're scraps of fabric that are too small to put on the foam board. Where else do I put them? So I've got all these coordinating pieces here. So I know if I'm looking for something, I can go through this entire bin. And the great thing is the fact that they are stackable. So I can keep them on my shelf. I can utilize all of my space by stacking them together. And I can still easily see what is in each one. The other way that I most commonly store my fabric scraps is in baskets by color, mostly. I kind of have reds in one basket, pinks, oranges, and so on. These are scraps, and I'm going to be honest, I don't go through them very often. Sometimes, depending on the project or what I'm doing, I want to get better at using my scraps, but this is how I store them. And now, before everybody asks, where the heck did I get these? They're old. They're no longer available. I got them at Walmart many, many years ago because this is an entire cart that pulls out. It's got a surface on the top, and then each of the baskets slide out. I wish they were still available, but they aren't any longer. But you can find something similar. So these are wire baskets that are fabric lined, which I like because sometimes wicker baskets tend to get a little messy on the inside. So it all depends on what works for you and what you have. But this is it. Like, I just throw scraps in here. This is not organized. I thought this is supposed to be yellow. I don't know what is going on the top up here. I just obviously was putting something away and stuck it. It's kind of the yellow basket. And then, we can have oranges here, different things. All depends on your need. This is all mostly like basic gray, like my grunge scraps that I have, So these aren't organized the best, but what I try to do is to organize them in here by color. And again, scraps are anything, like I consider a scrap anything that I think I might use. And if it's under a half a yard, I really don't try to fold it up on the foam board. I'll put it in the bin. I also try to keep my scraps folded the best that I can and not just shoved in the bin because then they become a wrinkled mess. So these are some scraps from a project that I was working on. This was supposed to be the red bin. It's mostly red, reds and pinks. It's not a perfect system, but it's what works for me. And, at some point I'm going to go through these bins. That'll be a fun day. and we'll organize the scraps. I don't know when that'll be. It's not coming anytime soon. I'll just tell you that right now. I'll have a cabinet like this that I use for some of my fabrics. This is holiday fabric. I like to keep all my Christmas fabric organized and grouped together. So I'll keep it in this cabinet because this fabric gets used so little. I mean, it's not used year round like my other fabrics. I'm constantly over at the fabric wall. I keep this one in the cabinet. I don't have a huge issue with dust in this space, but if you have a space that is dustier for whatever reason, you know, you might want to do something like this where you're keeping it behind clear glass cabinets. Wayfair is a wonderful place to shop for cabinets such as this. There's so many different styles, sizes, and types that you can get. And I love the ones that have the clear doors because, again, I can see what's behind them. I'm going to show you how I wrap my fabric around the foam board to make it look nice and neat and uniform every single time. So first, let's unwrap it. And the other reason I love the foam board is because when I go to use this fabric, I have somewhere to stick the pin right in the end of the foam board, and then it's always there. But anyway, let's fold fabric. So let's say we just brought this home from the fabric store. We're admiring our pretty new fabric yardage, right? So what I do first is I fold it into thirds. So, and I just eyeball this, you guys. Don't get hung up on perfection. You don't need to measure. Don't worry too much about it. So this is about 9 inches tall when I fold it into thirds, okay? And then I simply take the foam board, so I wrap it, and then I just continue to wrap around as many times as I need to. And then when I get towards the end, I fold in the corner like so, wrap, and then fold it around the edge, and then I use my little pin, just sewing pins, nothing fancy. Sometimes I will buy those ones that are shorter because then they don't stick out the back. Just be careful that you don't stab yourself with it. I just kind of slide it into, sometimes if I fold it just so, it will end right on the edge and I can put the pin right in the edge as well. So you could do this and just tuck it in and then that part won't stick out on you. So either way, but that is how I fold my fabric around the boards. So fold it in thirds, so it's about 9 inches wide, and then it's the length of your fabric, and then just wrap it around the board and use a pin to secure it. I love having my fabric out in the open where I can see everything. I can come here, I can kind of shop my wall. It's my own little fabric store, if you will, but having things again out in the open, visible where you can see them is key. I hope this fabric storage video was helpful for you. I hope it gave you some great ideas. Now, when you're out and about, make sure you're looking for those containers that are the perfect fit. I mean, I probably can't find more of the ones that I already have. So when I do find those gems, like the jelly roll container, I bought all that they had in stock, and I kept going back every couple of days in case they bought more because I knew I would buy more jelly rolls down the road, and I want my storage to be, I want it to match. I want it to coordinate. So I bought extras that I could put away until I had time to use them or the need to use them. So keep that in mind when you're out shopping as well, is buy more than what you think you need if you're able to. But maybe it doesn't matter to you. Maybe as long as you have all clear storage. Again, whatever works best for you in your space is all that matters. That's all that's important. So I hope this was helpful. And if you missed the first video, I'm gonna put it right here up in the corner. You can just tap that and watch to see where we started and talking about organizing craft rooms, whether it's sewing, quilting, whatever kind of craft you're into. I hope these videos give you some ideas and help you get started on your organizing journey so that you have more time to create and use your stuff versus always thinking about organizing it and getting it cleaned up. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, share this with your friends, and make sure you hit that little bell up in the corner so that you get notified next time we post a video.